to open up. He wants to get back to his cabin. A Kingsville woman finds an American family's treasure, love letters, purchased at an auction. A live look outside as we see a bit of a cloudy day here in Windsor. That cool down Colette mentioned certainly in effect. A look at the full forecast later tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. The Government of Canada has issued a formal apology for the internment of Italian Canadians during the Second World War. Thousands were accused of being fascist sympathizers. Hundreds were labeled enemy aliens, arrested and treated as prisoners of war. CBC's Sanjay Maru joins us now. Sanjay, what does this apology mean to Windsor's Italian community?
Well, Chris, that apology is something many within this community paid very close attention to this morning. Now, none of the people who were sent to these internment camps are actually alive today to hear Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's apology, but that doesn't mean it wasn't heard loud and clear by those within the community today and those supporters outside of it as well, as they remember the hundreds of Italian Canadians who were sent to internment camps, including some from right here in Windsor.
To the children and grandchildren who have carried a past generation's shame and hurt, and to their community, a community that has given so much to our country, we are sorry.
The Second World War, a frightening time for Canadians, but even scarier for anyone born in a country perceived as the enemy. In 1940, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini entered the war on the side of Nazi Germany. The Canadian government responded by labeling the 31,000 Italians living in this country as, quote, enemy aliens. They were put into camps like this one, all men, all of Italian descent. More than 600 people were sent here. Historians estimate it includes more than 30 from Windsor, held sometimes for months or even years.
When the authorities came to their door, when they were detained, there were no formal charges, no ability to defend themselves in an open and fair trial, no chance to present or rebut evidence.
It's never too late to apologize. It's never too late to really ask for forgiveness of something that did happen.
Massimo, the head of a Facebook group for Italian Canadians in Windsor, Essex, says the events of the 40s aren't talked about a lot within the community, not because it wasn't significant, but because it's too difficult to talk about.
Their parents were taken away from them, their brothers, their uncles were taken away from them. It's not really talked about. I think not many people want to remember a difficult time like that during the war.
Even those not sent to internment camps were punished for their heritage. Windsor Police dismissed Constable Nerio Brambal in 1940 after 12 years of service. Although he had done nothing wrong, his Italian heritage was enough to make him a suspect.
Men between the ages of 17 and 70 were forced out of their homes. They were arrested. They lost their jobs. Their wives and children were criticized, ridiculed in the streets. Rocks were thrown.
Then there's Aldo Sfalcine, who came to Windsor from Italy when he was just 7 years old. Now at 75, he says the prejudice didn't stop when the war was over.
When the kids spit on you and clean their boots on you, you know something's not right. And it was disheartening. I felt worthless. I felt like something's wrong with me. I'm no good.
For Sfalcine, Trudeau's apology is a long time coming. He's happy it's come out now. However, the discrimination he faced as a child, he says, still affects him today.
So I realized, the society wasn't going to accept this. But it was damaging to me psychologically.
And this apology from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau received full support from all parties. In fact, Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole told the story of William Casanova. He was 9 years old when he watched police arrest his father at their home right here in Windsor, and he would go on to spend 2 years at internment camps. Meanwhile, the people I spoke with within Windsor's Italian community say the reconciliation needs to go beyond this apology. They want to see the recognition and the accomplishments of Italian Canadians within the Canadian war effort be formally recognized. Chris.
Thanks, Sanjay. CBC's Sanjay Maru live tonight. Premier Doug Ford sent a letter this morning to experts and stakeholders asking if the province should reopen schools for one more month before the end of the year. In that letter, he addresses his concerns about a variant first found in India and the threat that it poses to schools. He also cites data from the UK that indicates a single dose of vaccine is only 33% effective against it.
My position is that I've been encouraging schools to open as soon as possible. Discussion with our medical officers of health throughout the province. All of them want the schools open.
Now, the medical officer of health for Windsor, Essex was not at the morning COVID-19 update event this morning to comment. The head of Ontario's Secondary School Teachers Federation says they've got a lot to say about this. Now, they say a regional reopening strategy might get broad consensus. That letter from the Premier's office, it was sent this morning, and they're expecting responses by the end of day tomorrow. Vaccinations continue in Windsor, Essex. More than 3/4 of adults now have a first dose. The health unit says about 2,500 youth have received a vaccination so far. And an update today from farm workers, about 5,000 have been vaccinated so far. Last week, there were targeted pop-up clinics in Leamington. They were able to get about 400 people, mostly farm workers, vaccinated. Now, the health unit reporting 24 new cases of COVID-19 today. There are 266 active cases. Of those, 48% are variants of concern. Now, tonight, the Prime Minister will meet with premiers with plans to discuss reopening the land border between Canada and the United States. The current emergency orders are set to expire June 21st.
Getting the vaccination numbers up above 75% across the country is going to allow for a much better posture on reopening, including around what we do with the U.S. border and international borders.
Now, just over half of Canadians have a vaccine dose as of this afternoon. Yesterday, we told you about Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens, who, along with Windsor Regional Hospital, is pushing for a cross-border vaccination clinic. They say Detroit pharmacists have been offering to administer vaccines at the border to Canadians. The health minister was asked about this plan today in question period. She says supply is not an issue.
There are enough vaccines in Canada for Canadians. I will also point out that the United States has deemed that vaccination is not an essential reason to cross the border. We're working very closely with our American counterparts to manage travel at the border. And indeed, we encourage the mayor to refocus his efforts to the Premier of Ontario for the doses that he requires.
Now, that closed border means Americans can't access cottages that they own in Canada, and they're hoping border restrictions will be relaxed soon so they can spend some time at their home away from home. Jacob Barker has the story.
John Adams wants to visit his cabin so much he created an ad pushing Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden to reopen the border.
It's just policy to you, but it's prison to us.
He and his wife own a property on Vancouver Island, a spot they spend around 5 or 6 months at every year.
I didn't get to go to my home all last summer, and then here we sit now and soon be June, and we normally leave mid-April. And I've done a lot of activism before, and I've used television and print and that sort of thing. I said, I'm going to do me a TV ad.
Adams has run his ads on TV in Washington State, in the greater Buffalo and Niagara area, and in Detroit. It's garnering a big response.
This whole thing just kind of exploded.
He hopes the attention will help open things up.
What my ad is pushing for is a safe and orderly opening, not for everybody, but for people who've been fully vaccinated, who either are property owners, it's separated loved ones, and people who have vital interest across the border.
Joan Lentini lives in Canton, Michigan, but by this time, most years, they would already be at their cottage on Willow Beach in Amherstburg. She has an idea of what they would be up to as well.
It wouldn't be a quick dip, but we'd make it to the second sandbar and get our shoulders wet.
But they haven't been since January of last year.
It's disheartening. Lake Erie has been part of my existence my entire life. And the cottage is a gathering space for the kids and the grandchildren to come. But in addition to that, it's a property that needs to be cared for.
She, too, has been writing both governments pushing for access.
We live in a border city, and so medical personnel has been able to come, and people work their 3 12-hour shifts and go back and have a life. Truck drivers come over. There are people commuting. I wish that property owners would be labeled essential travelers as well.
The Canadian and American government have revisited the border closure each month since last March. But right now, the focus here in Canada is on crushing the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
Buried inside a box of old magazines, a Kingsville woman discovered a true love story, dozens of wartime love letters that she was determined to return to sender. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva on this special delivery.
Nearly 8 years ago from an auction, she dug it out this year.
There was this really cool, beautiful tin at the bottom, and I love old tins, and it was like really pretty with roses, and I was like, well, there's something in here. You know, me thinking that it's just like postcard, like, or just whatever, and I opened it up and I saw the letters and I was like.
Thompson's own grandparents were war vets. She knew she needed to find the family. She found obituaries leading her to their granddaughter.
We were really so over the moon and really excited.
It was remarkable that they were found after all of these years.
Starkman remembers his parents as wonderful, genuine people. His dad, born in Toronto, relocated to Detroit where he found Betty, a social worker. Married on Christmas Day, 1952. Weeks later, Morris sent to war.
My father's in a war zone where there was a tremendous amount of death. He saw horrible, horrible things.
The letters mailed back to the Starkmans, sparking a childhood memory of seeing the letters before.
My dad was coming downstairs. I don't exactly remember why, but he became really, really incensed. I was looking at the letters. I didn't read them. I didn't open any of them. And he said, those are private between your mom and me, and I don't want you reading them.
Decades later, Robert respects that wish.
But eventually, I would like the original letters to be buried with me, since I'm going to be buried with my parents.
He's not reading them, but I definitely am. I'm so excited to read them.
With Dad's blessing.
It's so clear from these letters, how much they cared about each other.
Her grandmother would be proud. Betty was a genealogist tracking the diaspora of Jews around the world.
And that's, again, why this is the craziest story, is that my grandmother's life was dedicated to this kind of thing.
As for how the letters ended up in Kingsville, Robert assumes it happened during the sale of his mother's house in 2013. But what matters most, where they are now.
I'm glad the letters are back where they belong.
And he's grateful to Thompson for making that happen. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Windsor.
You can read more on that story on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. The Windsor Essex Humane Society says it's had a wide range of animals this year, from roosters to reptiles. The shelter is seeing it all, but no matter the animal, they're all finding homes. This past week, there was a lot of quacking.
We do get some farm animals, we do get some reptiles, we've had some snakes. Oddly, we've had a bit of a run on turtles as well. We had 4 turtles available this year, which is a little less common. It's a bit of an unusual weekend for us. We do get domestic fowl in fairly regularly, but it's unusual that we get as many as we did at once. So we had 3 separate groups of ducks come in. We had 2 pairs and then a group of 5. It's interesting. A lot of people think they're going to be very hard to adopt. But the reality is, whenever we post them on social media, we're flooded with interest of people adopting, especially hens. Roosters are a little bit harder, but for sure hens and ducks tend to get adopted really, really quickly. Well, they can't be adopted in the city of Windsor because ducks aren't permitted in the city of Windsor. So they were adopted to residents of the county. We encourage people to make sure that their municipality allows them to have ducks in the area they live in before they take them home, because some of the animals that do come in, chickens and ducks, are because someone didn't realize that they weren't legal to have in the city of Windsor.
Now, urban chicken owners in Tecumseh can expect more proactive checks from bylaw officers. Council deciding to increase enforcement measures after multiple complaints and 1 license being revoked.
Given the number of complaints that I've received and the total number of licenses, I find the balance isn't quite there. We're a bit high. I'm aware of certainly 4 different situations that people have alerted me to. That's about 1 out of 3 is going to have a problem. I think that's a bit high, and my sincere hope is that that number will drop with the new enforcement measures that are being proposed by the town.
Now, the program has been running a little over a year now. 11 permits issued at the start of the project. The one that was taken away, that happened in February this year after complaints. There's a total of 60 urban chickens in the community, and 4 of them belong to the Turanjo family.
It's the same reason why you would get a dog. We got chickens, but we don't just have chickens. They give us, breakfast or like you cook with eggs, almost any meal, right? So it's just, I think it's very beneficial for people to have them, especially in Tecumseh. I think people should definitely try it.
Now, he says he welcomes the increased enforcement, hopes complaints go down. He wants to see this project continue. It's set to end next April. Now, tonight is the game for Toronto Maple Leafs. They're one win away from advancing their first time in 17 years to the second round of the playoffs. Now, along with tonight's excitement comes with some positive news about their captain as well. He was back on the ice today for a brief skate. The return comes just 1 week after suffering a concussion and a knee injury in a pretty frightening collision. No word on when he will return to the lineup, but his teammates and head coach were glad to see him back on the Blades. Players, along with many fans in Windsor, are excited for what Game 5 holds.
For me personally, I strongly believe this is probably the most balanced team we've had in several years. Good mixture of talent. They got some grit with bringing Foligno in and Simmons and guys like that. So
I'm praying that they can win this tonight. Montreal's a tough team to play against, though. Carey Price is no slouch in net.
That there's people all across Ontario and Canada rooting for him, and hopefully when the restrictions are lifted, that they know that there's going to be groups of Leafs fans all getting together and cheering them on and supporting them.
The boys have been stepping up and playing. I mean, William Nylander's been rock solid. Matthews and Marner, they're not scoring very much, but they're being solid in the first line. And then all the older guys, they're delivering, which is really nice to see.
Play strong, play aggressive defense, aggressive offense, and, just take it home tonight.
With Tavares being out, the team can step up and Matthews score a few goals tonight, and all the big names coming and finally passing the first round.
I haven't been able to sleep since Wednesday. I mean, since Tuesday when they went up 3-1. I have been excited about this since 2004. I've watched every single playoff series since then, and I never really thought this was going to happen. And I am extremely pumped. I think they are going to win tonight, and it's going to be a celebration.
I'm going to go 2-0 Leafs with a goal from William Nylander. I mean, he's been amazing. And then I'm going to go the empty net goal from Zach Hyman.
Strong prediction to end it there. We take another look outside here, enjoying a little bit of that cool off from where it was last week. Colette Kennedy with a look at the forecast next. Canada's telecom regulator has handed a big win to the country's big phone companies. The CRTC has reversed a 2019 decision to drop wholesale internet rates. Now, this ruling follows years of regulatory and political fighting by Canada's internet companies. Independent internet providers buy blocks of access to the big telco networks, then resell it to consumers. They say that they've been overcharged for years, and that position was supported by the CRTC's decision in 2019. Bell, Rogers, and other regional phone and cable companies defend the rates they've charged since 2016. They say the CRTC's 2019 decision would have them selling at a loss. Now, the CRTC says it made errors when it ordered major phone and cable companies to slash their wholesale internet rates. Colette Kennedy joins us for a live look at the weather today. He was able to pop out on a kayak for a story we're going to do tomorrow, and that cool weather, it worked out okay.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because we've got some winds that'll be picking up. So you were good. You were steady in your kayak.
Yeah, today was the day. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent timing for you. Some great weather conditions, and I hope everyone had a chance in some manner to enjoy that, because we do have rain that's coming in. We need this rain. We need it, yes, for our gardens and our lawns, but for the crops as well. So nice to have it, and it does timing's pretty good, because it's gone for the weekend, and then we'll have some sun coming back here eventually. A very pleasant day, though, today. We were up to 17 now at 13 degrees. Some cooler readings, though, is that wind coming in off the lake, and we're seeing that north to northeasterly flow there. Those winds, these are the sustained winds. They are beginning to pick up a little bit, and we're going to find, as just now they're just over 40 kilometers an hour. As we go towards tomorrow morning, those gusts are going to be at times up towards 60 as we head into midday tomorrow. So be aware it's going to be breezy, and be aware it's going to be wet. Already seeing this pushing just north of Sarnia coming in towards Lake Huron, but we will see a more widespread soaking rain into southwestern Ontario as we head through tonight. It will begin, and it lingers into tomorrow by the afternoon or early evening, moving away, and eventually we'll get some clearing, but then there's another system just skimming to the south of us. So it's going to be a close call on Saturday morning that we might see a few showers. Otherwise, a mix of sun and cloud, and then more sunshine for Sunday. And also the temperatures will slowly come up, because it's going to be cold as well as wet and breezy for tomorrow. Potential for the amounts of rain, we could be seeing even in some cases over 30 millimeters. I'd say a range of about 20 towards 25 might be more likely. Here you are overnight tonight with your readings: 8 degrees, 6 degrees over towards London, 11. That's right, for tomorrow. We'll probably get that later in the day once the rain leaves. Then we'll have a chance to come up a degree or two. Otherwise, it's nearly steady in the upper single digits. But look at that really nice rebound for the weekend and into the beginning of next week. So a nice run coming, and rain that we need in the meantime.
Yep, no, absolutely. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
From powerful wind to the power of wind, a Spanish invention taking the blades out of wind power. That's next. Canada isn't the only country looking at energy-saving measures. Around the world, there are projects testing out new ways to generate energy, and that includes wind power. But a project in Spain doesn't involve giant wind turbines or blades at all.
It is very similar to other wind turbines, but instead of rotating or spinning, in this case it oscillates. What it does is it collects the kinetic energy of the wind and transforms it into electricity. It's a very simple machine, slender, vertical. We moved it away from the ground so that the wind speed is as high as possible. It's such a simple machine that above all, it optimizes maintenance costs. What we want is to try to find a niche that is not properly covered by conventional wind power. The niche that in principle we see could be small wind industry, because the absence of maintenance, no need for oil, and the low cost could be the elements that make this idea a useful tool for distributing energy, producing energy, close to the point of consumption. And then in the long term, maybe the offshore wind industry. For all those urban centers that don't have as many solar resources, the urban environment seems to fit perfectly with this idea. The fact that it doesn't produce noise, the visual impact is subjective, but there are those who consider that it could have some attraction, better than those of the conventional wind industry, like the windmills. And above all this, the fact that it has no maintenance costs, or hardly any, is something very valuable.
We've got some spectacular images to share with you now from Iceland. Drone footage from a volcano gushing molten lava near the capital Reykjavik began in March, still spewing red-hot rivers of lava months later. It's the area's first volcanic eruption in almost 800 years. And just before the long-dormant volcano flared back to life, the area was hit with 50,000 tiny earthquakes over 3 weeks. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.